Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I am your host, Ben, and of course,
your co-host, Carissa.
Perfect. And by the way, you sound really, really good. So that whatever you have there, ladies and gentlemen, kind of behind the scenes, it's, audio problems next to internet problems might be one of the worst things for a program like ours. It's, yeah, troubleshooting, not fun. But everyone, I'm happy that you're here. And of course, I'm happy that Carissa's here. And hey, today on the program, we have a full show planned for you with the one, the only Mike Cermak, owner, operator of TechGuide.org, and of course, longtime Computer America correspondent. And yeah, we're going to be talking about current events, and we're going to focus on, kind of tech news that really affects you, or let's face it, that's just interesting. I am still kicking myself, Carissa, that yesterday when we were doing news, we didn't talk about the guy in the jetpack who was seen over the Los Angeles airport. And of course, of all the airports, that's like as bad as going over Atlanta. I'm sorry, LAX is one of the busiest airports in the country, and this guy has to go and do that. So, right. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, Carissa, but don't worry, we'll get into it in the news part. So everyone,
I actually read a little bit about it, but I just read the headline, so I haven't actually read into it yet. But it was really interesting.
We'll get into it a little bit more. But everyone else out there, computeramerica.com, if you'd like to read some of those headlines and hey, maybe even the articles behind them, computeramerica.com, you can find them all right there after today's program. And yeah, make sure to make that super simple, as well as a link to our guest website, techguide.org, or at the very top, if you just go to tech support, we tried to answer everyone's emails and, kind of give the help that we can, but by and large, they have a great community set up over there, and we, hey, it's kind of our preference. So, Carissa, with that being said, before we bring Mike on, anything else that you'd like to announce, or I think we're good to go?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Perfect. So, everyone, now, as I said before, Mike Cermak, and we don't do the show from 10 to midnight anymore, so it's not open mic night, but hey, it's always fun having him on. Do you remember when Craig used to call it that?
I forgot about that. I totally did.
Yep. Open mic night, indeed.
That's right.
Yep. But now he's on in the afternoons, as are we. And hey, Mike, welcome back on to Computer America. How you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing great. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty darn good. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. So was that you who was up in the jetpack? I was just wondering how much detailed information you have of it.
I thought I was being safe. It was, you figure that if there's anywhere that you can fly, it would be an airport, and suddenly there's a huge stink about it. I don't get it.
There is this thing called airspace around airports. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Yeah, there was lots of it. It was great.
No, I don't think you understand.
Well, and actually, this is actually pretty interesting because, Mike, if I recall, you are actually, you fly as kind of like a hobby, and, you enjoy flying.
Not so much jetpacks, though. More of like the two-winged variety.
I was going to ask you how would you respond, because like I heard some of the calls to the control tower saying that there's a guy in a jetpack, and everyone kind of treated it as like, yeah, that's a thing that can happen nowadays. What do you think your response would be if you're taking off flying?
You would have to question yourself a little bit first before you call it in. Like, am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing? Like, am I gonna be the first guy to call in with this, or is that clearly an optical illusion of some kind? Like, I don't know. I would definitely hesitate to call it in.
Yeah, it's kind of like those stories that you hear about, UFOs and aliens and stuff like that. And suddenly you are locked in the archives forever as the pilot that called in the UFO and booted out of the military. But I got to say that was pretty interesting. And as far as I know, they still haven't caught the guys.
I've heard they're still investigating, but
turns out he got away using a jetpack. He's so hard to catch.
Well, and they saw him when they were up around 3,000 feet, and that seems kind of high for a jetpack.
That's high.
That's like, that's low for a big airplane, for a passenger carrier.
That's
like
low for being on the that's low for being on the inside of airplanes. Being on the outside, that's very high.
Yes, that's exactly right. I agree with that. That's very well said. Yeah, exactly. That was shocking to me to hear that. I mean, and imagine the danger of that, because I don't know if you're aware of this, but those jet engines actually suck in a lot of air and create a lot of turbulence, as it turns out. Like, even for my little plane to be close to a big plane like that is a danger. Like, they call out and tell you, caution, wake turbulence, if you're coming in behind one of those things. I mean, he would have, if he was close enough for them to spot him and identify him, and in one case they said he was about 300 yards away, which is too close to be and I don't know what the accuracy is of flying a jetpack. Like, how well can you aim that thing, and how accurately can you, like, it's not a helicopter. Like, I would imagine you would get pushed, or I don't know how this works. What is happening in 2020?
The better question is what happens when your fuel runs out, you're 3,000 feet up in the air? Like,
no, that seems like a terrible thing. That's
and of course, I think it goes without saying, this gentleman was doing, this gentleman or lady, whoever it may be, was doing something very dangerous, and not just for themselves, but for everyone who
that is absolutely right.
Near them. Indeed.
I mean, as funny as it is to joke around this, you're right. It was.
I really think about what a flock of geese did. It turned someone into a national hero.
Correct.
And that's, someone is much, much heavier than a goose could do even more damage. It's, maybe make someone a superhero or something. I don't know. But
maybe
he shouldn't have been doing it. Yeah, there you go. It's he shouldn't have been doing it, but I'm also curious what kind of jetpack it was, because we haven't gotten any serious confirmation. This article that I have here from The Guardian, it shows this gentleman here, and I find it funny. It's like, oh, they got a picture of the guy. No, this was from a demonstration in 2005. This was 15 years ago with this guy using one of these fan propeller jetpacks. Nowadays, I'm not sure, Mike and Carissa, if you guys have seen him, almost like the Green Goblin-esque kind of like hoverboards, but like they're like quadcopters, but you stand on it. And I'm thinking, maybe it was something like that, where it was one of these hoverboards. I just don't know what he was using.
I guess that could be. That seems more likely than a jetpack.
Yeah, the other option is, of course, like a kind of like an assisted squirrel suit, I think is what they call it, that skydivers use, and kind of base jumpers.
Right. I've seen this. Yep.
Maybe they had some kind of like assisted squirrel suit or something like that. But either way, man, if all the stories that we've been doing, Mike, over the past couple of years about drones in airports and flying around airports, and of course it's stupid people trying to get pictures and videos of planes taking off and landing.
And there's been some very dangerous close calls on some of those.
Yeah.
And I've heard some air traffic control recordings of those too, where they pass drones and they're and to do that, to fly a drone or to fly a suit of whatever kind close to planes and along like a main route where they're doing takeoffs and landings, it's just so crazy dangerous. Like, there's so many other places where you could do it where it would still be dangerous, but it's not along the takeoff and landing path of major airlines.
I'm trying to remember. Scotland spelled with one T. Who knew? And there's an incident where an airport in Scotland had a drone, and they grounded everything for like 24 hours while they investigated, and they blamed this couple who I think was known in the area as like drone enthusiasts and hobbyists, or at least like the husband was, and they arrested him saying, hey, this is the person who was flying the drone illegally. If I recall, I'm trying to find that, and by the way, it was one in Edinburgh, I think. But if I recall, it was actually a police drone that was misidentified, and they harassed this guy and arrested him and booked him. It didn't come out until like they got a lawyer and they looked at the case. Turns out it was a police drone, and they misidentified it as a consumer drone and arrested this guy. Yeah, crazy times with airports and drones and things like that. But I digress. That's a good tangent to start the show off on. Mike, before we get started, techguy.org, what should people go, or what can people find when they get there?
Yeah, go do it. Do the thing. Go to techguy.org. You can also find that from Computer America. Click on, what's the tab?
Tech support.
Yep, that's a good thing to call the tab. And go to Tech Support Guy. There we have free support. You can go there, post your question. Other volunteers try to answer your question. It's all completely free. It's paid for by sponsors and advertisers. And chances are while you're there, you can find another question from someone else that you might be able to help with, because everyone knows more than someone about some sort of computer problem. But just community people trying to help one another with computer problems.
Absolutely. And, there's actually a tab, speaking of tabs on our website, there's one called Free Software. I've been meaning to update this. I'm pretty sure most, if not all, the links work, but I never mentioned this on the show, and I don't think I've ever mentioned it in your company, Mike, but there's this tab up there called Free Software, right there next to tech support. And if you want to go out there, there's all the different, essentially it's a collection of links to different resources, including, of course, free browsers, and, there's all your basics, along with things like Waterfox and Double. Maybe you haven't heard of those browsers. There's everything from image editors, which there are tons of. Everything here is free. Like, it's all either open source or free for everyone to use. There's 3D modeling, video editing, audio editing, simulations, streaming encoders, audiobooks, games, VPNs, virtual machines, office suites, all that and more. Yeah, it's a pretty long list, and I'm still trying to add to it. So I never really.
It's a great
that.
resource. Absolutely.
I did my best, and I don't know if there's any kind of like free resources that you really enjoy, Mike. But yeah, I'm trying to collect all of them because
VLC.
the internet.
You gotta have VLC.
Yeah,
do you have
for
Office in there? Do you have like LibreOffice and
Office suites?
Yeah,
I have a
Suites
whole
is there. Yep,
section
I see it there.
of. Wait, did I pass it? No way.
Yeah, it's in there. It's right above operating systems, right below virtual machines.
LibreOffice and Google Docs. That's pretty much all I got for Office Suites.
Wireshark. You got some good ones in here. I don't know if I have any. I'll have to glance through it and see if there's anything that jumps out at me, but
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, just trying to do my part, because again, it's and I've actually had people contact me explicitly for this, and they're like, "Hey, we want to be on your list," and I'm like, "Are you a free product?" And they're like, "No," and I'd be like, "Well, then you're not allowed on that list."
There's a free trial.
Yeah, exactly.
Nope, goodbye.
They're not allowed on the list, so all this is free, and of course, a lot of it is donationware as well. So if you feel like donating, then hey, more power to you. But a lot of good stuff. So, anyways, there's a second tangent, and ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't tuned into, of course, our segments here with Mike Cermak in a while, things have really evolved over the last couple of years into kind of like current events and, obviously tech-focused stuff, things that are interesting and things that you should know about. So I think with that being said, I picked up a couple of stories. I think Carissa did. If not, then she's probably going to go jump on that. But Mike, you came on the show about 30 seconds before we all started. So
sorry about that. I was running a little bit late today.
No
one
problem.
thing that jumped out at me that I don't know if you've talked about is that I guess Toshiba's not making laptops anymore.
Oh. We did cover, or we might have covered that. I know that I definitely saw that as well.
I was so disappointed to hear that, because there's a lot of brand laptops that I kind of hate, and Toshiba is not one of them. I've always had pretty good luck with Toshibas. Like, they're not the cheapest ones around. They're not your Dells and some HPs and stuff. I'm just not a huge fan of. Who's a sponsor? Who can I not burn right here?
You can burn all of them. Burn all the bridges.
but Toshibas I've always liked. Lenovo's I've always liked. Like there's you know what I'm saying. There's always exceptions to every rule. But
Gateways, yeah, of course.
Yeah, Gateway 2000. One of my guys, one of my technicians, swapped my mouse pad out on my office desk for a Gateway 2000 mouse pad just last week, and I came in. I was like, "What the hell is like? I haven't seen one of those in 20 years." Like, I mean, that's
around that time.
You find that like.
Around that time, I was probably using an old AOL CD mailer as a mouse pad.
Right, exactly.
Because I never used the CDs.
Back when they used to mail the internet to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird. But yeah, Toshiba stopped. I think they claimed that they just weren't making enough money, because I know that a lot of people for laptops, it's a very slim profit margin. Like you buy these things like almost at cost, and they make just a couple of dollars. And of course, that's why so many PCs, laptops, and tablets come with bloatware, is because that's a great way to kind of get a little bit of profit out of actually doing this, is by having these really not so fun companies. And Mike, I was actually helping a friend build her PC recently, and we went to like 3 different retailers, and every one of them had this thing where it's like, it comes free with McAfee anti-malware. Right. And I was like, don't get that, because that is almost as bad as malware itself. So yeah, do that with what you will. But I got to say that there was no option. Like, I would have even paid, and this should be like a new revenue stream for McAfee. I would have paid like $10 if they would not have installed it by default.
Well, there's so much bloatware. I mean, that's half of what you do after you install after you get a new computer. You have to go through there and remove all of the junk, all of the free trials, all of the trackers, all of the
free software, free trials, all of it.
It's ridiculous, and we want to make sure we can give you notifications about all the things you don't care about. Like, just give me Windows. I mean, that's part of the reason I actually like Google phones, like Pixel phones, is that it doesn't have all that extra junk that is typically on Android phones. Speaking of which, I had to mute my ringer. Let me do that. Sorry.
You're good. Yeah.
And so anyhow, but I was kind of surprised to hear this. So Toshiba's quietly exited the laptop business once and for all. It's been around for 35 years. The first Toshiba laptop was in 1985, the T1100, that had a 3.5-inch floppy disk and 256K of memory.
Ooh.
Space age, yeah.
For just $2,000.
Luckily, we have advanced just a little bit, but they were a huge player for the longest time, and I know that in the enterprise, they were about as dominant as a company could be in the enterprise space. So
yeah, it really came as a surprise. It almost feels like we're just going to get whittled down to a handful of manufacturers here, and I don't know. Makes me a little bit nervous. I like competition.
Yeah, and Toshiba, they're still around, but it looks like they've let's see. They said in 2019 it wound up its nuclear business, Nugen, in the UK after failing to find a buyer for it. So, their laptop business is going under. Their nuclear power plants are going under. They are, I guess, struggling to find their niche.
So the next time I go to buy a nuclear power plant or a laptop, now I'm gonna have to go to someone else. I'm gonna have to go to Dynabook for the laptop.
So
now.
Inconvenient.
If you see a Lenovo branded nuclear generator, then just know that end of life support extended support probably won't be there.
Yeah, you phrased that correctly. That's
end of life.
You want to use the
Exactly.
proper terms there when you're talking about nuclear reactors. Let's not have end of life support with our nuclear reactors.
So we did mention that, but Toshiba is still around. I think that they're making again some stuff like. They're almost turning into like an IBM. Remember when IBM used to be, like everywhere, especially with consumer stuff, and now IBM services exclusively the corporate end, and they're doing better than ever. So I hope that Toshiba can do something similar.
Yeah. I hope you're right.
Yeah, so there's that. This first story, second story, and I wanted to talk about this one because this is one that Carissa and I have not talked on the show yet about, and this has to do about Apple. Recently, Apple with iOS 14, I thought they only made it so that if an application is passively using your location data, what other apps you're using, whatever metrics that they're measuring. I thought it would just give you like a little indicator in the top left or top right near whatever the thing is, and it would show you that this app is using these features and these sensors. Turns out that Apple with iOS 14 is actually going to automatically reject applications or I should say like revoke access to location-based stuff if you don't allow it. So if I tell Facebook that I don't want to give Facebook permission to track my location at all times, it will by default just do that. You don't have to dig through the settings and reject it every single time. This is big news because obviously advertisers are very, very afraid that they can't collect all the information that they used to as easily, especially on mobile, because I guess mobile is a huge market for advertisers. Mike, I was curious, did you hear anything about this? And, obviously you don't have an iPhone, but usually whatever iPhone does, eventually others start to follow suit.
Yeah, I haven't seen that they're going to start rejecting the anything that's already been accepted. That's kind of interesting.
Starting with iOS 14, which will ship this fall, Apple will begin requiring developers to show you a warning that they are collecting your IDFA, and you'll have an opt-in to sharing it. So instead of an opt-out, like it currently is, it's an opt-in, and that's... that's
and that's not necessarily for location information, but that's identifying for advertisers. That's IDFA. So that's kind of like an ID number that kind of like a cookie, on the web, so they can show you effective ads and figure out trends and things like that.
Makes sense. So that's what IDFA. So yeah, and there's that. And let's see. It's interesting
because even on Android, after a recent update, and I can't recall which one it is, it does something, as you said, similar to what Apple does. That when you load a program, it prompts you: do you want to allow them to always view your location, or only while I'm using this app, or never? And that was a change at some point in the not too distant past, where it started doing that. And even the ones where you had allow or deny before, it's now more explicit: allow always, or allow only when you're using the app, or deny.
I'm looking forward to it. It gives people a better, I guess a better idea of just how many apps are collecting what kind of information, and it's I like that for sure. What Apple's doing though. There are some warnings saying here that, let's see, audience network revenue. I guess audience network is a service that provides or purchases ads or sells advertising, whatever end of the transaction they're on. But they said that their revenue could drop as much as 50%. And Facebook is considering eliminating the service altogether for iOS 14 users. And Facebook was really one of the biggest detractors from iOS doing this, because Facebook, obviously a lot of users and collects a lot of data. So, but I feel like advertisers have had it so good for so long. Like there's been no regulation, no rules on what you can collect. GDPR came out not too long ago and gave consumers actually a lot more protections. I wouldn't be surprised if this was kind of like an extension of that. But I'm looking forward to a day and an age where it's not just a given that if you're on a website and you're on a service that you automatically give up all of your data. Although, Mike, you run a website. We run a website and we do advertising and stuff like that. It's necessary and you wish that people paid for it, but I don't know. There's always that question. Well, then how does anyone get paid? I guess is the next question.
I'm a little concerned and have been for a while about the free web and the future of the free web, because if everyone goes down the path, and there's a fine line there, everyone doesn't need all your personal information. And there's always that misconception that cookies allow everyone to know everything about you, where it doesn't. It allows you to know some tracking information of, where this particular...
Where'd you come from? Where do you go?
Yeah, where
Cotton
this
Eye
random
Joe.
device has gone to. But it doesn't tell you that it's Ben and he lives here and, yada, yada, yada. But there's a fine line. You don't want advertisers to be able to trace people and know where they are and personally identify them. But to be able to give relevant ads, I think, is a useful thing. I like that this day and age, that right now when I went to Computer America's website, I was seeing an ad there for a tool that I had been looking at earlier today. Like that's
we were
okay
watching.
With me.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I mean, Ben knows I want to buy this tool and maybe he'll send me one.
It was the Ryobi drill. It's beautiful, gorgeous.
But in all seriousness, though, I mean, I think that's good good for me. That's good for you. That's good for the advertiser. And it allows Computer America to exist. And it's much better than just some random ad there for Toshiba, or whatever. And the other side of that, if you keep going down that path and blocking more ads, and then literally like blocking ads, everyone's using AdBlockers these days, and how long can that go and companies still be able to make enough money to run a free website or offer a free app or offer a free service? I mean, this has to be paid somehow, and that worries me a little bit.
Okay, let's play a little game. Mike used to do these all the time, but he hasn't made he hasn't made a quiz in quite a while, and it's sorely
we'll
missed.
have to do that again now that we have Carissa.
Absolutely, but I have a little quiz for you, and let's see if I can. Okay.
Oh dear. All right, let me sit down.
How many ad blockers are being used today? And let's see, this number was given in 2016, so a couple of years ago. And this was how many devices are running ad blocking software.
How many devices are running ad blocking
And that
software?
can include phone, laptop, all of it.
Jeez, how many devices are there? In 2016, okay.
Wait, 6 billion devices, if you're wondering. 6 billion devices.
So out of 6 billion devices, and in 2016, I would venture to say that the percent has increased dramatically over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I would say in 2016, maybe, 10%. So,
Carissa, what would you say?
I feel like it's more than 10% because more people are starting to use it, including
Remember,
younger generations.
this was 4 years ago. 4 years ago.
I would say at least half of them.
At least half, 50%.
I would say so. It depends on your
Ben, you were terrible at this.
Who's got the device and stuff like that,
Well, to be fair, I didn't say 50%, but Mike was actually almost right on the money with 10% because it was actually 11%. About 600 million devices were running some form. Nothing, but you get bragging rights. That's all you get. But 600 million devices were running some form of ad blocking software, and like you said, the number has probably increased. And Carissa, I think that it's increased, maybe not 50%, because this is the part that so many people seem to forget, is that kind of like the cord cutting population, everyone's like, no one pays for cable anymore. Everyone gets everything through Netflix and Hulu and the internet. No one pays for cable. And then you look at the cable subscription numbers. They're still at 130 or 140 million paid subscribers to cable in the US. I mean, it's such a massive market. And I think that ad blockers in particular, it's such a small percentage of people that actually use it. Don't get me wrong, 15 to 20%, I would guess in 2020. But even that is like a drop in the bucket compared to the people who just whitelist everything and go wherever they want and don't have any form of ad blocker whatsoever.
Right.
There's a lot more of them than there are of us.
Yeah, but losing 20% of revenue is no minor thing, and it's going to continue to go down that line. I all the time see YouTube people talking about installing. I love Raspberry Pi, so I get recommendations for people who do things for that. And there's Pi holes, programs that you can use to block ads through the Raspberry Pi. There's all sorts of. We use Untangle servers for a lot of our customers, and they have ad blockers as an option in them. And, of course, everyone uses AdBlock Plus and all of those, and it's just going to continue to increase. And there's a point at which these companies are going to have to find alternative ways to keep their sites running, which is going to be paid subscriptions, just the same way every other site is. But that kind of stinks. I miss the good old days. Remember back when we just had a couple ads and had free stuff everywhere back before.
Yeah, it was all peer-to-peer sharing, and then you downloaded, and then it was nothing related to what you actually downloaded. And yeah.
I remember the good old days when Gmail first came out and everyone was upset because Google was going to read their email to show them relevant ads.
I hung out with a different crowd, and obviously when Gmail first came out, I was in middle school. I want to say 6th or 7th grade, and I was so excited for my Gmail access.
Right.
I got the invite, and then of course I could invite 100 of my closest friends to also take part in the Gmail beta. And
I wonder who invited me, man.
I don't even know. I think I got mine through Craig. That's how I got mine. Sure. And then I invited one other friend because that was about all I had back then. But I invited that one other friend, and it was Gmail. It was great. Still love it. Blah, blah, blah. Now, speaking of advertising, and Mike, I just wanted to get your take on this because this is something that I'm planning on doing with my home, and I wanted your idea. So this is obviously a Reddit thread and a Reddit post. Don't do everything that Reddit says because, hey, there's a lot of people on there, and you never know exactly what they're going to do. But this is an option. It's kind of like a form of ad blocker, but you do it from your router. And you block a number of websites and domains that would normally serve you ads. And he has a couple here listed. You can, I guess, blacklist or stop any connection from particular services. And so like let's say if you're a parent and you don't want Google, for whatever reason, you don't want Google to be served to your browser, you can block it in your router, and it would never even get to your computer. Yeah, and so he has one, things like DoubleClick, Google Lead Services, QuantSurf, things like that, which are some of the biggest services when it comes to when it comes to ads. He has like a short list, a medium list, and then the long list has like 80 different ones that he can block. And you can input these directly into your router and prevent it from happening. And the whole reason that you do this instead of just an ad blocker is because it will block anything coming through that router, including smart TVs. It will block any ads coming through streaming devices, Chromecast, any kind of Hulu, for instance. It will stop all advertising going through any kind of third-party device or service.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's essentially how the Pi-hole works as well, is it just prevents the DNS from resolving properly to the site that provides the ad. I think that's just more the problem. If you're worried about privacy, go in there, change your cookie settings, block third-party cookies, do all that kind of stuff. But I don't think blocking all ads is a good long-term solution.
Not for the internet. For the individual.
You have to look at the greater good, people. Don't be too.
The greater good. Yeah. I completely agree.
Too hippie right now, I guess. It's a weird combination of hippie and support the advertisers. I don't know how that.
You said the greater good, and my mind immediately went to Hot Fuzz. I
don't know what Hot Fuzz is.
You've never seen Hot Fuzz?
I have no idea. It sounds like a delicious
Carissa,
food.
That was Nick Frost and Simon Pegg or Sean
2007.
Simon Pegg?
Yeah, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and it. Have you ever seen Shaun of the Dead, Mike?
Yes.
Same creators, same kind of universe.
Okay.
Except they're cops. It's
I was
a buddy
actually
buddy
just
cop
introduced to that very recently.
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead. Sorry.
Shaun of the Dead, and then it's very tongue in cheek, very funny, and. Yeah, they mention the greater good because they're a little idyllic town and they will murder anyone who threatens their little idyllic town.
I think that's what we should do to anyone who blocks all ads. I think that's the only reasonable thing for the greater good. Just send them one of the Toshiba nuclear power
We'll
plants.
Send the dude with the jetpack and he'll take care of it. And he'll get away with it too. So there you go. Okay, so there's that story, and advertising, that is your daily dose. So Carissa, if you don't mind, I'm going to pull one that you sent over, and why don't we talk about, you have a couple here. I like this one, this last one that you sent, and it has to do with productivity glasses. Mike, have you been working from home more recently in the past year?
Yes, in the past year. Not in the last couple of weeks, but certainly over the past year.
There you go. So I think that a lot of people have distractions, and it's hard to, kind of stay focused on what you're doing. I'm assuming that's where these smart glasses are going. Ladies and gentlemen, The Verge, these anti-procrastination smart glasses use AI to monitor what you look at all day. Before we get into Mike, Carissa, are you trying to take over our minds with AI? Why did this appeal to you? Why did this story kind of catch your attention?
Well, personally, I up until recently hadn't worked from home. I'd worked in the event industry for a while, and my home was my happy place. You don't work in the house, it's not work. And now having to work in the house, it's actually kind of difficult getting into that habit because it's just, this has been my play space for so long. Mm-hmm. So I just thought these were really interesting. And I'm sure other people have a similar issue that I have. And I just wanted to read more about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do these work? I'm seeing really cool graphs, and I am skeptical that a pair of glasses can generate these.
Yeah, so and obviously this article was probably paid promotion by an Indiegogo campaign, which we're showing the product video here. By the way, Mike, I don't know if you noticed this, but like every Indiegogo campaign that I have come across lately, they're always funded by like 300%. Like, someone funds it immediately and then they just use the Indiegogo as a form of advertising. That seems to be the way that Indiegogo has. It's almost like Steam Greenlight and stuff like that. But anyways, let's see. They say that they can condition your mind to ignore distractions, set goals for positive reinforcement, gives you a small gives you a small shock so that if you look at anything, you get buzzed. Track activities both on that last one's not real. Track activities both on and off screens. Bone conductive to play music. Track fitness. So it looks like they're mixing almost like a Fitbit with Google Glass to a very minor extent. It looks like. Let's see. So. Yeah, looking through all this, so it tracks your focus. And Mike, have you ever used any of those sleep monitoring devices? Like I know that fitness trackers have them, but you can also just get the straight apps that do it. Like
I have not. I have not recently.
Sleep quality trackers.
A long time ago, I have.
Yeah. So
there's one Android Sleep or something like that was pretty good, and I think it's still one of the top ones out there.
Yeah, this seems to be almost the same thing where they're measuring certain metrics, and obviously with them being on your face, it knows that if you're turning your head left and right, and how long are you staying focused on a particular activity. I guess that's what they're tracking, and they're trying to.
Is there a camera on them?
Probably not. Let's see. They had a breakdown here in the. So. One second. Pause the video right here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching the video portion, you can see it there, but let's zoom in here. Here's a breakdown. Image sensor, whatever that means, microphone, microprocessor, accelerometer, Bluetooth, bone conduction speakers, charging port, oximetry sensor, long-lasting battery. I do not see... unless like an image sensor is the camera,
yes.
I don't see a camera.
I think that's what that is.
Yeah. It is. So I'm reading through it here. It says, you look at the specs, the premise is simple. A camera built into the frames of the specs uses machine learning to identify what you're looking at, whether it's a laptop, book, or fellow human being. It records this data and sends it to the connected app where users can take a number of actions. And the charts that you get are really cool. So I've been actually kind of interested in productivity recently and doing charts and using apps to mark what I'm working on during the day to figure out how productive I'm being and so on. And these are really cool charts.
But yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, you broke up there for a moment. I think our connection just was interrupted. The really cool charts like showing productive work and unproductive work and whether you were watching streaming information, television, social media, desk work, reading. And I'm skeptical that it's going to be able to accurately determine what I'm looking at and whether it was a streaming video or a television video. How the hell is it going to know the difference between that? Or if I'm reading or doing, I don't know. I'm skeptical of some of this.
Maybe, and to the answer, the answer to that, maybe they are building the platform that because it is just simply an Indiegogo. This is like even before they have a
it doesn't really exist.
And maybe like they'll sell the hardware and then the software is going to get better over time when they get the data that shows these people were watching TV, these people were doing this, then it will get better over time. But for now, it's just the glasses. I assume.
How do you feel about wearing a pair of glasses that have a camera on it that's constantly recording and analyzing what you're doing?
Carissa?
I think it's pretty. I mean, it's fun. I guess it depends on where the data is going. But
I feel different when I look in the mirror after getting out of the shower.
Right.
What are you analyzing right now, little glasses?
Hey, fitness is fitness in any form. But yeah,
I can see that as being a potential hack that no one would want to have happen. Like that seems, I don't know.
But you risk that with anything that's connected to the internet. You risk having it hacked. So
that's
like
true. But it also brings
staring
me
at you, or your webcam that stares at you when you don't look. Whether it's your glasses that are looking at stuff when you don't want them to look at stuff, like it's all going to happen anyway.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably true, but there was a lot of pushback back when Google Glass came out, and a lot of people didn't like having someone wearing a Google Glass being in the bar with them, potentially recording without knowing it. I don't know how a lot of people will react to having, someone in the room who has glasses on that have a camera in it.
the same way that they did.
Conspicuous though.
This is far less conspicuous, so much so that I'm very suspicious that they can actually make it look like the little demo I'm looking at here.
Right.
I suppose that they can. I think it'll look more like the one we just saw in the image a moment ago, where there was a duct taped camera to the side of some glasses. But
yeah, that was obviously
even if they could. That would be obviously. Yeah, I'm just being a jerk. But
I think it would be cooler if it had like a heads-up display, like if you could see your screen in your.
I would love that.
Glasses,
you know,
that would be better.
Carissa, I'm so terrible with names. Just awful with names. How many times have I talked to Ben, and sometimes I have to stop and think about what the heck is Ben's
I know,
name.
he calls me Steve. It's very rude.
All the time. Sometimes I call him Carissa. I'm so glad there's a Carissa on the program now. But I would love a heads-up display that just as I look at people, it would say Ben over it, like just so that I could remember people's names. That would be awesome. But I don't know. I'm also have watched too many episodes of Black Mirror that
yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. Too much Black Mirror too quickly can get you very not looking forward to the future.
Dark place real fast.
Yeah. I'm trying to stop it on obviously what was the kind of beta that they were putting out. I think that people would react the same way that they did with Google Glasses, where I think even at the beginning of that test through Google, people were told to leave the premises, which is weird.
Yes.
Considering that almost everything is and there you go, there's all the wiring going in, but cameras are everywhere. Like even if they're not on people's faces, they're just about everywhere else.
But even still, if you walk into a building, there's going to be security cameras. Literally, there's cameras. They're at the stop signs. They're at the traffic lights.
But they're not in the bathrooms, and they're not in the.
That's not true. I've seen people get sued all the time for cameras in the bathroom. I've seen that before. But so there's that, and this. I'm skeptical like you, Mike, because the technology is obviously there. We've seen even smaller cameras. We've seen everything with accelerometers in them. Like it's possible, but then I guess it's the psychological and the actual kind of implying that this can improve your focus by any means. I don't know. That seems like the science part of it. Completely unproven, but the technology side, this seems possible.
I might even push you on that a little bit, like the technology side of it, as far as being able to actually build all of this into frames like the ones they're showing there. Like you're going to fit a battery and a camera and all of those sensors. Yeah, I need to look at that picture a little closer, and all of that into that frame. I'm a little skeptical they're going to pull that off. I mean,
in
I
the
have
diagram
a smartwatch that has some of that equipment in it, but it doesn't have a camera in it, and it is pretty heavy. I don't know if I'd want to wear it on my face.
So for anyone out there who's simply listening to the radio, and of course check this out in the show notes, but think of like the big knobby plastic sunglasses that people used to wear back in the 80s, and these things are even thicker than those. That they were just very.
They remind me very much of like military issue black plastic framed glasses, like just the generic like 60s scientists, glasses, which are kind of in style again now, but. I don't know. And I guess the side of that frame on his face does look pretty thick. I mean,
I don't know. It certainly does.
And what's the battery life going to be like? I
don't know. But also they say it's going to come with a $400 price tag. So not cheap either. But of course, Google Glass was like $1,200 or $1,000 when that one came out. So.
And how much they have that image processing thing in there? How much of the image processing can actually take place in the glasses versus how much of it is going to have to be sent?
Done in the phone? Yeah.
And if that's the case, that means that someone's going to figure out a way to write a program on your phone that will be able to access that camera on the glasses.
Right.
Which means I'm going to get to hack into your glasses and watch wherever you go.
Well, luckily, no more glasses. So, lucky me. Yeah. Surgery is wonderful. So, there you go.
I would love some smart glasses. I'm just concerned about the security.
You just wear them while you're working when you need them.
Carissa?
Well, that may be one answer. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, Chris. You just, you have your work pair and you have your, home pair or whatever. Yeah. I just get the same solution that most people have with a laptop. You just get a sticky note, put it over your glasses, that little corner of your glasses.
Right there on the corner.
Problem solved.
Just slap
I guess they
duct
could build
tape.
in a little shutter, like in all seriousness. I
Yeah,
mean,
there you
that might
go.
be the solution to my major issue here, like a tiny little.
People feel better, and mainly through smart speakers. People feel better when there's a physical toggle switch for cameras.
I
And,
watched
and
a
microphones.
video on these laptops that have LED indicators of when the webcam is turned on, and how in most of them it's a separate circuit than the webcam. That the driver is turning on the webcam switch and turning on the LED switch, and then they wrote a different driver that didn't turn on the LED and just turned on the webcam. Like, how hard is this? Like, why can that not be on the same circuit? Like, what it's supposed to be indicating? Like, come on, guys. Get it together.
Some of it is just kind of like maybe when you build it and repairability. If they're two separate things, then hey, you can just replace one and not the other.
It's just laziness. I think they just got it from one sort. Like, this is the same webcam we've always been using. Let's just stick an LED next to it and wire it into the. No, it needs to come from the same place. That's what it's supposed to be indicating to me. I should not be able to be recording from the camera without the LED on. That's why the LED is there.
And like it's almost like when Mark Zuckerberg went to Congress and people took a picture of his phone. No. They took a picture of his laptop and he had a piece of tape stuck over his webcam. And people were making all these jokes about, the main person violating everyone's privacy is suddenly concerned with privacy. And I was like, first of all, the dude's a billionaire. People are going to try to hack into his webcam all the time. And second of all, he knows enough, like you just said, you can turn on the webcam without turning on the LED. And he's not going to risk that. So take a lesson from him. Don't make fun of him. It's everyone should do that. So, with that being said, and I really want to talk about this, I don't know how long this topic will be, but it's not a Mike Cermak show if we don't bring Elon Musk in somehow.
Who's that?
Yeah, Elon Musk. He's this guy. He builds cars and spaceships, and it's he's pretty good at it.
Weird world we live in.
Cars too.
Space cars too, absolutely. But he came out with another demonstration of Neuralink, and I'm wondering, Mike, if you heard anything about this, and then
of course,
of course, you have
some controversy around it. So Neuralink, for those who don't know, is an implant. There's a funny meme going around that says, Bill Gates is trying to make vaccines for everyone, and everyone's like, no, we don't want your vaccines. They could have microchips in them and track us. And then literally Elon Musk comes out and he's like, I want to put a computer in your brain. And everyone's like, yeah, cool. All right, let's do that. What could possibly go wrong? And so literally what they're going to do is have that fancy machine. If you're watching the video on the left there, that big white machine, you stick your head in that. What could go wrong? And it cuts a piece of your skull out, and it very carefully inserts a bunch of little sensors into your brain, and then sticks this chip into your skull in the hole that it just created. And presto changeo, you're out of the hospital on the same day and have a little.
Should say about the
attached to
size of a quarter. About the size of a quarter.
About the size of a quarter, right? Which also is, I guess, about the
thickness of a skull.
Thickness, thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Mine's much softer.
My Neuralink chip slowed down there for a second. Yeah. But and it's interesting. There's a lot of great things they're talking about possibly doing with it. For example, people who are quadriplegic can have that inserted into their brain, have a receiver inserted somewhere at the base of their spine, for example, have, if there's damage to their spine or whatever, they can send the signal from the brain down there, and suddenly you might be able to get some limbs moving again. And they gave the example here in the video we're watching. If you're watching the video, they had pigs there some of whom had the Neuralink chip implanted. Yeah. And they actually gave a good example showing the readings from the chip that the computer had guessed where the pig was moving its limbs based on the sensor in the brain, and it was darn close to what they were actually doing. Indicating how they could use it for that.
Yeah, the main point of that demonstration with the readings that you can see there, and they showed the difference between, the signal from current medical equipment and the signal from their equipment, which is much higher fidelity. And what Mike's saying there is that the pig thought, we're going to move our back left leg forward, And then
Right.
you could read the signals in real time, and it happened just before the leg actually moved forward, which is obviously what you want, because this thing's going to be implanted directly into the brain. It's going to get that signal much faster and, of course, in real time, which, like you said, if you're trying to fix something motor skill wise, then hey, you definitely need that quickness.
Right. Yeah, and that accuracy. If you're the video, for those who watch from the video, if you skip Ben to around 4 minutes or 4:02 or something like that, you'll see the image of where they're reading the activity and showing the movement of the pig. There you go.
And then
how
they had like
accurate-
predicted. They had
Right.
predicted too. So it's using AI, of course, because everything has to have AI. Where it's trained long enough on these pigs to know, this is how they walk and this is how they're probably going to do it. And so it's not only predicting, but then it's immediately confirming, and then it's transmitting that signal, which is
Right.
super. I've never seen anything like that. This is man,
It's really impressive. And I've heard some criticism saying, yeah, we've had stuff that could do this for a long time. And I'm sure that a lot of this has been built on the shoulders of other people. I don't doubt that at all. I think that they're moving it more quickly to a possible market solution than a lot of the research has been doing, and making this sensor so small and automating the installation of it so that you don't have to have a brain surgeon doctor who's actually putting all these little pins into your brain. So I think there is something they are adding to it, but
that's what Elon Musk was saying, that part of marketing this as medical equipment, he wants to keep the cost down as much as he can so that more people can get it. And his way, very much the Tesla way, his way of getting lowering the cost is by, like you said, having this machine that will do the entire surgery, do all the implanting quickly, effectively, and of course, kind of like a drive-through. Lay back, get some local anesthesia. It'll do everything, stitch you back up, and you're on your way. There's no doctor directly. Obviously, they'll probably have a doctor overseeing it.
we don't want Ben pushing the button.
Well, I can push a button as well as anyone else can, and I can probably lay there better than any pig could. But I wasn't involved with either of these. Carissa, I don't know what you will think of this, but you have to admit, Carissa, that I don't know, something about technology and medical equipment just goes together so well. What do you think about computer chips and brains, and really the two interfacing with each other like that?
I find it really interesting because I'm super into sci-fi and stuff like that. And I think it can be very helpful, but can also be very dangerous. What if it short circuits your brain and gives you an aneurysm? What if somebody hacks into it? What if they implant it wrong and you bleed out? There's so many different things that can happen.
It's almost riskier than putting a pair of glasses on.
Right.
Well, yeah, there you go. But I mean, like, we have had pacemakers for a long time, and those are getting more and more wireless as well. So,
I guess it also depends on what they're going to be doing with it. Is this going to be like feeding music directly into your brain? Is this going to be like the movie? What was it? Gamer, for example. Do you remember the movie Gamer?
Was that the one where they like use prisoners as like video game controllers, and like kids would play?
Like that, but even still, there were like brain.
I think that was the one where like people were like video game players, like instead of playing like virtual avatars, they would take control of death row inmates, and then they would like do like a battle royale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you risk, just for example, things like that possibly. So, I mean, it's good, but it can also be used for bad. But that's just about anything. I don't think the technology shouldn't be there for that reason.
Right.
Yeah, there's a pros and cons to be made for every situation. If you're a quadriplegic listening to this, you might have a different feeling on this than we would. It's like,
why are you blue skying when this could give me the ability to walk? Yeah,
right. I might be willing to risk it.
My coffee maker and turn on my coffee maker for me, that'd be great. But like, aside from convenience, things like that, like, why do people need this?
Elon Musk is smart. Yeah, Elon Musk is smart by definitely angling this towards medicine first and helping people who have almost no other options. He's definitely targeting the right audience, which is great. Helping people who have so few available options. That's perfect. That's the Elon Musk I like. There's a lot of versions of Elon Musk I don't like. This is the one I love. This is the one that gives me hope that he's actually doing good. And Mike,
He's super optimistic too, and just like the usual Elon Musk way, he also kind of overpromised, right? Did you hear the news reporter who asked him about the possibility of recording and playing back memories?
Yes.
He's like, "Oh yeah, we'll definitely be able to do that someday." And it's like, wait a minute, like that seems. I'm not a brain surgeon, in case anyone didn't know, but that seems like quite a stretch. Like to go from being able to pick up the signals and figure out moving limbs to actually being able to record and play back memories. Like, holy cow, that's a whole different generation of.
I will say that is already possible, because I think that they have, and by possible I mean that's completely not possible. I mean the opposite of what I just said. What I mean to say is that I recall scientists doing a study where they took continuous CAT scans or MRI scans. They took one of the scans and they were measuring the electrical signals going through the brain, and they were actually able to map out memories, and then they were able to, through those skull caps with the electrodes on them, they were actually able to get people to forcefully remember the memories. They did not make the memories, they did not change the memories, they just knew what pathways in the brain were associated with the memories that they were having. And by, again, kind of replicating what they were doing, they could get people to remember, what they were already remembering.
So I haven't seen that one, but I can see that happening. If you have enough sensors to be able to measure the neurons, which ones are active, and then reactivate those, I could see that happening. The more complicated part, I think, would be figuring out, okay, these number of neurons are lit up. How do I decrypt that into an image of...
You cannot read memory, right? It was not about reading, it was not about making, it was not about implanting, it was not about changing, it was simply about this memory is associated with this pattern.
So it can only be played back in that brain.
But that's still pretty useful, because if you can map it out and then you can play it back, at least for that individual, you will be able to...
That's true, there's usefulness
keep
in
a
that.
memory.
That's not how I interpreted it, but maybe that's what they meant.
Again, all of this is science. This is all cutting edge science. Like you said, I know almost nothing about the brain, and it may just be rudimentary. But if we can talk about it, I mean, think about technology in general. It's it's coming quick. So, and Mike, just real quick before we get off this, Neuralink. I recall Neuralink, when he first announced it, to be something to the nature of, here's how Elon Musk sees humans interacting with technology. Much like Chris's example of, start the coffee maker, Neuralink would start your coffee maker just by thinking. That's how I remember him first pitching Neuralink, and now he's taking this very medical stance to it. Like, he didn't say almost anything about, the convenience parts of it or the fun parts of it. It was simply the medical advances that he's making. Am I speaking of memory? Am I misremembering that? Or
let's play it back and see. I recall in the last event they held, which was, I don't know, a year ago, that they did mention the health benefit side of it and quadriplegics and so on at that time as well. But I think you're right. I think that was all about on equal footing, if I remember correctly.
He was trying to.
And if I were to guess this time, I think that they might be focused more on it because that's the more immediate benefit, but also that's probably how they're managing to get, FDA clearances on it.
Right. Yeah. He was definitely focused on, the fact that the keyboard and mouse is a dumb way to interact with technology. This is the better way. And it's not better yet, but from what I saw, and again with the it was like the dozen or so like human hair thick wires or sensors or whatever that they poke into your brain. Man, what a great solution! I hope that he gets it. And of all of Elon Musk's different projects, I was not excited for Neuralink, but after this, I got to say, it's right up there with SpaceX for me.
It's amazing the scale and breadth of things that he is working on.
For sure.
Because he's not from this planet, is the
he's a Martian. We knew it.
Are we allowed to share that information, Carissa? I thought we were supposed to.
We'll find out in about 20 minutes if we're not here anymore.
Do you hear that? Jetpack's on the roof. No. It's gonna be okay. He certainly. How does he find time in the day? I don't know, but he certainly does
Probably
it.
doesn't sleep.
Yeah, maybe he would get more sleep if he didn't tweet.
I think he
which
just
would
plugs
also
into
be
the
nice.
wall or something.
That's it. That's why he's working on battery technology, so he can finally move away from outlets. That's definitely good. So, Mike, in like the last 2 minutes here, I'm just trying to think of other topics that we didn't bring up. I know that Chris and I covered, to a pretty good extent, the new NVIDIA graphics cards. I'm not sure if you saw the 3000 series, 3090, 3080, 3070.
I haven't really looked into it. I saw that they are coming out, but I have not looked into them. What's the big difference on them? Just better, more, faster, and bigger price?
Actually, huge improvements. I've even seen some benchmarking that was already done saying that there's going to be, like, in terms of non-RTX, just basic 1440p gaming, you're going to see about a 100% performance increase from
100%?
the previous.
No,
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, from the 3090 to the 2080 Ti, it's about a 100% increase, and then with RTX and that kind of thing, you're seeing an 80% performance increase.
How is it that much of a difference?
It's a whole new architecture. It's
You're supposed to say AI. Isn't the answer always AI?
Obviously, but no, they moved away from Pascal and they're onto the next thing. So, but hey,
that's
music
huge. Wow, I'll have to look it up. Thank you.
It really is. And hey, for $1,500, you can get one too. So, with that being said, everyone, there's music playing softly in the background. Once again, everyone, Mike Cermak, techguy.org. You can, of course, go there, and there's a link over at Computer America. Mike, I should ask this way at the beginning. How you doing? Everything going okay?
Doing great. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. Hope you have a good one.
Our pleasure, and we sure will. Carissa, thank you so much for obviously doing this with us once again. We'll be back. Actually, thinking ahead, I think I have to take tomorrow off. So everyone, we'll be back Friday. Sorry to announce it so late. So Carissa, I'll see you Friday. Everyone else out there, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.